Hi everyone, Tim here at Pacific Coast Trains. It's a beautiful spring day here in Northern California. It's been a while since I've posted. I got a few things to share. So sorry I haven't posted for a while, but hopefully we'll make up for it with this video. Let's take a look at what I've been working on. So the last few months I've been on a bit of a boxcar splurge. For whatever reason, that seems to have been the kinds of projects I enjoyed working on. Like many of you, many of you probably have, I have a whole set of things that are half finished, and I kind of pick them up, work on them for a while, and then get a little tired or get distracted, pick up another project, work on it. But for the winter months, was working on a few boxcars. First we'll start with a couple of Athearn Pullman Standard 5277 cars. These are going to be Railbox cars. This one just came out of the box, and I talked a little bit before about how I'd not been happy with my original color. This one, much happier with. The modern logo boxcars tend to fade in a slightly different way. They get a little whiter and a little less orange than some of the original logo rail boxes. For whatever reason, I guess the paint had changed in between. But this one, I've kind of done a lot more work to it with regards to just making sure that it was whiter and lighter as opposed to more orangey. Some custom tags, faded out the logo a bit, and generally was pretty happy with this. The tags that I use, I tend to use pictures from my own collection with regards to the tags to the extent that I can, but certainly find a lot of good examples of other graffiti on usual websites, Railcar Photos, RailroadPictureArchives.com. Those are a couple of my favorites. But this one also has some of the, and I'll bring it in a little closer, has some of the other load markings that some of these cars have picked up more recently. And then you sort of flip it around, some graffiti on the other side as well. Again, this one was done with very thin wash to make it look a little bit older. These couple of tags are a little bit more recent. Some dings on the doors, again, fading over bulk of the car. Wheels and trucks, of course, a bit on the roof. Pretty nice addition to modern boxcar fleet. So I was pretty happy the way this one turned out. Next car, also an Athearn Pullman Standard 5277. This one's one of the original logos, and got some of these graphics, these patched out graphics from Circus decals. They have a set of weathered Railbox kind of stripped and peeling logos that I used straight from the package. I've tried to achieve this result with other techniques before, most notably painting over the black logos with some yellow to make it look like it's been stripped out, but wanted to try the decal version of this, and was pretty satisfied with it. There's a couple of things to think about when you're doing this, but I'll go over those in a bit. This was actually an undecorated car, or maybe I stripped it, I can't remember, but then painted it with this sort of darker orangey brown base coat over the car, and then applied the decals. And that actually worked pretty well because I knew I was going to be covering the decals with further weathering and another wash to blend it all together. When I first applied the decals, there was a pretty stark contrast between the base color and the decal itself. It didn't look very realistic, but after a couple of other washes to blend it all in, it started to look a whole lot better. Applied a tag, and then, actually a few tags, washed some of those over to make them look older, and then applied the patch out and some Smokebox Graphics decals, along with the safety striping for RBox 38520. Between that and, again, a little bit of yellow paint to represent some fading and peeling on the label on that side, an extra Smokebox Graphics tag there, label there as well for loading and unloading. Wheel inspection also has got that there too. Really happy with actually how this car turned out. I'm going to be using the rest of my Circus decals Circus Decals products on other faded out patch rail boxes as well. Then we'll flip the car around to the other side. You can see again, similar treatment. Tags came from photos found online. Patch in a slightly different spot to represent how this car had been done. Another patch out with some of the data there. The wheel inspection and clean out certificates in green on top of that. Lube plate, the lading decal and label there. And then finally, this car has just a little bit of kind of orange and brown rust application to the door itself, which, you know, again, gives it just a little bit more character. Hard to see on the black, but it's definitely there. So we've got a couple of rail boxes that in concert look pretty good, kind of overall, as I bring it just a little bit closer to see them together. Third car for today is a Branchline Berwick kit. This is one that I stripped down to the bone and then relettered for a Ferromex car. These are pretty common in Northern California in sort of normal service. These decals I actually created on my own for the Ferromex, the FXE, and then all of the, in Spanish, dimension and weight decals here as well. This car was, I've taken pictures of this car up at a local industry just north of where I am, north of the Bay Area, up in Benicia. Again, pretty common. You start to see some of the reinforcement paste that is put on the sills to try and keep the car together a bit more. These things get pretty rusted and pretty beat up. So those are pretty prototypical. Threw on the COTS label as well, and then you can see over here, again, Spanish language lading information. So pretty interesting car, patched out prototypically on the end, and then this side as well has, you know, again, some of the same basic markings, but tags were taken from various prototype cars that I'd taken pictures of locally. So, you know, Branchline makes a really nice kit. This is a great starting point for lots of cars. You know, this roof got a little bit of a slightly different kind of treatment in that I brushed off the tops of the X's and the ribs just to kind of give it a little bit more contrast. I don't do that on a lot of my cars, but I thought it looked pretty good just to kind of mix in. And so again, when you sort of see the three of these together, you start to get a pretty good collection of modern equipment to use. I was glad to mix in the Ferromex because it proves that not every car that I have done recently is yellow, but the last car to mix in is an Athearn Genesis ex-Milwaukee car. This one's labeled NERR, short line that's picked up a few of these ex-Milwaukee cars. When I bought this car off of eBay, it was an undecorated kit. It had been partially put together, but it did need a little bit of work to it, you know, mainly replacing a couple of the stirrups, which had broken off. And I was really trying to figure out what I wanted to do with this car. The Milwaukee cars that Athearn makes themselves are really nice, but I wanted to do something that was a little bit unusual. So kind of painted this with a very, very pale yellow and went through a couple of iterations of that to try and really bleach it out because these NER cars get really faded. So with that as a base, then I could go ahead and apply the Milwaukee Road decals, but then also use lettering, just sort of a straight lettering set. The patches that are used are, again, a very pale yellow, so they kind of blend right in with the bulk of the car. And then we went to work with all the rusting that these cars have. You know, some of the vertical posts, especially around the doors, get hit pretty hard. Door tracks get rusted up, and a lot collects around the door stops as well. And then you've got some of the bleeding down the various sides of the car. Bunch of good photos online to work from, but this is a pretty good representation of a modern short-line boxcar. You can see the ends got grimed up a decent amount. Tack board, just a different color to kind of split that off. The other side looks pretty similar. Again, the heavy rusting around the door tracks, the bottoms of the doors. There is some rusting on the prototypes close to the inside of the doors and across the horizontal bars. Of course, a lot dripping down from the door stops as well. These roofs just made fairly plain. This is a pretty heavy rusting effect, which is what I've seen on these cars. But I think that it really lets the sides of the car stand out as well, which is where all the work is, right? Some of the thinner rust bleed, around the edges, and just some of the grime, and the contrast between the roof and the side panels is pretty marked. If you compare this color to the Milwaukee Road cars that Athearn produces, you'll see this is a great deal paler, which again signifies its age. So I was pretty happy with the way this one turned out too. So we got a few modern box cars to put into service, so it's been a lot of fun. Fairly productive winter. Hope all of you are doing well, and look forward to more videos from me as I get more work produced. I got a lot of stuff on the workbench, so we'll be looking forward to sharing that once some of those are completed. Look forward to your comments. Any questions, please include those in the comments below. Thanks so much, and have a great spring, everyone.